Warm welcome to the session, and we are really glad you came here, and we stole out some lunch time from you, so apologies for that, but I hope we'll make up for it with the session. So today we are going to talk about something that we have a shared memory of, because irrespective of whichever country we were born in, or whichever country we spend, we live now, or whatever our setups were, this is one of the common things that are a part of our nostalgia. Fairy tales, fables, good night stories. And strange enough, later on as we grow up, we realize how those early stories, those inertial stories that we only used as lullaby to go to sleep, perhaps would have created some kind of images, some kind of conditioning, some kind of stereotypes in our mind. So now with our age, with our morality, with our revised senses, with our worldviews, let us just take a quick look back at the kind of stories we were grown up upon, and let us see that if it makes sense to you, or what exactly should we do instead. So how were our stories to begin with? Obviously, once upon a time there lived a king who was not at all present in the parenting scene. The queens used to parent. There would be two queens at times, so one good and one bad. So the good queen is the one who would sacrifice and who would typically be childless. And there would be a good queen, there would be a bad queen who would look very pretty and have some ambitions. Pleasure is guilty, sacrifice is golden. And then there will be princes. Porcelain skin and long hair and sitting atop a long tower, waiting for Prince Charming to come and rescue her from some kind of evil. And where should the evil come from? Obviously a stepmom. Stepmoms can never be good. You never asked what the father was doing, by the way. If the stepmom wasn't stepping up to her work, what was the father up to? But okay, fine, the stepmoms are bad. Or if there is not a stepmom, there must be a witch in the scene somewhere. And remember, the wizards are good, but the witches are bad. Right? So you go on, there are villains, there is this young lad in a white armor and riding the horseback. Imagine the pressure on this guy. He has to come and save this girl. He absolutely has to. He has to be strong and brave. And the girl has to be pretty and fair-skinned and waiting for someone, cannot save herself, cannot step up. Self-defense was yet to be introduced, invented. The other thing that was yet to be invented, I guess, around the time of Grimm fairy tales season was the idea of consent. So the sleeping beauty will be sleeping and the prince can come and kiss her, obviously. The Snow White can be, sleeping and then the prince can come and kiss her and wake her up. The idea of consent was not there at the time of fairy tale, I believe, because in the original version of the Sleeping Beauty, it is actually said that the Sleeping Beauty became pregnant, and it is only while giving birth to a child that she finally woke up from the spell of sleep. Yeah, so we have a revised child version which still, stops at kissing. So this goes on, the beauty and the beast, obviously the beauty is being, captured and kept at a palace against her consent. So no idea of consent anywhere. And to top it all, the fine, happy ending. So you get the prince, you get married, happy ending for a girl. The way it very subtly, it very nicely, in a childlike way, sets us up as girls to be pitted against each other for the attention of a man. Who wins the prince? Who marries the prince? And after that it has to be a happily ever after. What if she wanted a way out? I do not know. No fairy tale will tell you that. So this using the prince as a trophy, using the marriage as a destination in life, small things, happy things. If we are going to complain about it, people would say that, there are larger crimes in place which we need to talk about, obviously. There are crimes that are sexual crimes. There's the top of the pyramid. Instead of talking about that, instead of taking out a candlelight vigil against, protesting for them, why are we spending time about thinking something that is supposed to be innocent, supposed to be for fun, supposed to be for, putting a little child to sleep? And here is why. The gender crimes that we see at the top of that pyramid is actually the top of the iceberg. Our discrimination, our sense of self or the lack of it, our sense of identity or the lack of it, our discrimination, our stereotypes, who does what, the woman belongs where, the man belongs where, the man rides a horse and the woman ties her hair, these small things tells a little girl from a little boy. And these small things pile up inside both their heads and tell them what to become and what not to do. Cover your legs when you sit. Boys don't cry. When we go to a toy shop and we ask for a toy for a little one, we ask a girl or a boy. If it is a girl, they'll give you a Barbie set with a 36, 24, 36. Or they'll give you a little baby for the girl to take care of, comb and pat and bathe and put to sleep, nurture. And when it is a boy, they'll give you a doctor set or a Lego set, cars, at times guns. And we are fine with it. And when it comes to 25 years ahead, this same girl would be one of the two parents who would call home in between meetings to ask if the baby has pooped. She would be the girl who would always be responsible and take leaves from office when the baby is sick of the two parents. She cannot put her hand up and say that, I want that next project overseas, because she cannot leave home, the baby wouldn't fall asleep without her by her side. So this is a circle. Whether it is a vicious or a virtuous cycle, we have endlessly debated, we have questioned. But the thing is, the narratives need to change. The stories we tell ourselves are the stories we grow up and become. The small things, very, very simple things like, don't run, it's a girl, don't hit her. It's a boy, do this. We say these things in the most unaware and innocent manner. In India, and especially as the topic mentions fables as well, in India we have a number of very heartwarming rituals. Like we have Raksha Bandhan, where a boy ties a thread around the sister's wrist and promises to protect her. And the girl instead, as opposed to that, accepts the brother as an authority. So it can be a 3-year-old male sibling and a 25-year-old or 15-year-old woman, girl sibling. It doesn't matter. The girl will be protected and the boy will protect. Every small or big things, obviously we have our beliefs in the, we at times say it's personal. The belief system is personal and we have to be obviously sensitive and we should respect each other's belief. But having said that, all the rituals come back to fasting for the long life of the husband. All the situations where we say that nowadays things are changing and the husband also is fasting, but somewhere if we look back at the stories where these originated from, the stories are dark. The stories don't give us a nice picture of gender equality. The stories do not really promote girls to go out in the world and win it for themselves. The stories belong to the household periphery. The stories encourage the girl to sit home and pray for the long lives of the husbands and the brothers and fathers. And this is something we are used to. This is something we are used to telling our children. This is something we are used to practicing ourselves. And if we really do not take a step back and be conscious, we will continue to narrate these stories and make our lives become those stories eventually, just as we are doing now. Girls are supposed to be coy and hold back. Boys are supposed to go out, masculine. The woman and the man sexuality, the male and the female sexuality has been totally played with. And we always say that this is personal. This is personal, yes, but this is also political. This is also universal. And we need to change these narratives, I believe, in order to serve our skills. Can be. If you look at the market, the merchandise that we see all around us, even the small candy packages come in the packs of blue and pink. The toy stores are like, here are the girls' toys, here are the boys' toys. Even the wrapping papers have Barbie prints on it or the Superman and the Spider-Man print on it. So every single small step, I really do not know, one thing that will change everything in the world and from tomorrow we will be more gender equal, at least in this, childhood space. But if I can please request you to do, one small thing. The next time you get invited to a little child's birthday party or something like that, when you have an occasion to gift to a child, can you do me one favor? If it is a girl, gift her a car or a doctor set. If it is a boy, gift her a little doll. Gift him a little doll. Let the boy nurture and take care of this little doll. Let him explore that. Let him explore a nice, innocent, little female body without having an aspect of grown up and violence. In the other room we are talking about women and violence and internal and intimate relationships. Where does this come from? Where does this belonging, men, woman, Mars, Venus, where does this come from? Let us get to know each other a little more. Let us gift each other gender opposite toys. Swap the toys the next time you get a chance. Swap the toys. Thank you. Thank you, and over to my next speaker. Aditi, are you here? I am. Aditi, yes. So, Aditi, please welcome and looking forward to your take on fables and
So, what just happened with me? So my flight got delayed. I just flew in from Ahmedabad, and Majama. So Kemcho means how are you in Gujarati, and I said Majama, which is I'm doing fine.
Ask her. Say it. Kemcho.
Kemcho. Can you say that?
Kemcho.
Yeah, that means how are you?
You say Majama.
Maja is like fun, okay? So Majama is like, oh, I'm having a lot of fun, like literally. So I just met Shalini, right? Yeah, Shalini. Downstairs. And I was telling her that I'm speaking about fairy tales and how we need to change them. But my session was at 1. My flight got delayed and unfortunately no Prince Charming came to save me. And that is exactly... I'm still waiting. So I booked my own flight. I flew on my own. I booked my own Uber. I came on my own. There was no Prince Charming waiting for me. But that was exactly what I was told all my childhood. That somebody will come to rescue you, to save you. And that's exactly what we don't want our future generation to read or to kind of rewrite the fairy tales. That's what the topic says. So while I was revisiting all the fairy tales, while I was preparing what will I talk about here, be it Snow White, be it Red Riding Hood, be it Cinderella, be it Rapunzel, it's full of gender stereotypes. And I, if kind of go back to what I do, I work for media and I try to use different mediums of communication for gender sensitization. So there are so many stories that we need to rewrite. I am sorry I missed the first speaker's talk, but if we even talk about our textbooks, especially in India, and I see a lot of different people here from different places, especially in India and especially in Gujarat, that's the state where I come from, our textbooks are also full of stories and full of gender stereotypical stories, wherein the father bird goes out to get food, the mama bird is in the nest taking care of the baby bird. Or if it is a policeman, it is always a man. If it is a teacher, it's always a lady. If it is somebody who is a doctor, it's a male, but if it's a nurse, it's a female. So all our stories are full of gender stereotypes. So when I talk about fairy tales and fables that our children read or listen to, and when now we see that with the adulthood lens, I think it really needs a lot of rewriting. So there are other stereotypes as well. So if I don't limit myself to, say, women empowerment or talking about how women are portrayed differently in our fairy tales, the men as well. They always have to be super powerful. They always have the onus to rescue the women. So, thank you. But so that there's always this pressure on our men as well. So this is what I mean when I talk about gender stereotypes. But then also consent. So I don't know, I'm just speaking aloud whatever is coming to my mind. But then Sleeping Beauty and Snow White were kissed when they were sleeping. Where's consent, for God's sake? So all of this, when we revisit, we feel that there is this need to rewrite. I was reading this very beautiful piece where a mother was narrating a fairy tale to her daughter, and the daughter very innocently asked, "But Mama, why was the lady waiting for the prince? If I would have been the princess, I would have run away." So, these innocent questions also make us think what exactly do we need to revisit, or what exactly do we need to do. So our happily ever afters need to be revisited, they need to be changed. And so I think it's time that we move on from the fairy tales, because this is also the era where we are focusing a lot on storytelling, and it's really becoming a very strong medium of communication in whichever medium we talk about, be it radio, because that's what my forte is or my background is. Radio is also doing a lot of storytelling these days, but then these stories need to be seen with a different lens now, because we live in a different era now, and I think it's the onus is on us to raise our next generation right. I think I'll end here and maybe listen to other speakers now, because, okay, well, thank you, yeah, sure,
Maybe you know already, but there's a book
yeah,
about written by two women. It's called
Rebel Girls?
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
That's exactly what you're saying.
Yes,
That's
yes,
exactly what you're saying.
yeah,
It's the life of 100 women.
yeah,
So told as
yeah, bedtime stories.
bedtime stories forever.
Yes, and there are a lot of people, ma'am, who are working now towards this. So, for instance, I was reading up about this, and I saw an Instagram account. She's again an Indian, Nikita. She rewrites stories and poems with a different lens, and she talks about things like body positivity, consent, and a lot of other things that we talked about today. So, I think people are gradually moving towards it.
I would also like to add something. That,
Sure.
Like in our country, we have the Western fairy tales.
Correct.
Quite earlier, when the grandmothers used to tell the stories of the
Huh.
Panchatantra or the other
Yes.
stories, which were local, were more, I think, had better gender, or had various different stories.
Ramayana, Sita, she was that option to choose. Husband.
Yes, but again, so
Similarly with the Draupadi also.
No, there is a
I think
there. But I feel in comparison, if you see, there are simple stories of various things. So, maybe sometimes culturally we need to do the stories of our own, why only have...
well, yeah, that's again a different topic altogether. But then even in our stories, I think I agree with man. For instance, Chota Bheem. Okay, Chota Bheem is all, and Chutki is like Chutki. Okay. So even in cartoons, even in our TV series, or even in our storybooks, or even in our, so a lot of things needs to be revisited. Textbooks.
I add on to the storytelling that she's comparing it
Huh.
to Western and the Indian culture. Luckily, I came to a story where it was from the Aesop's Fables,
Yeah.
where it was, the moral of the story was, do not sacrifice so much that it affects your life. This is nowhere in Indian culture. This is where
So I'm sure there would be
difference in the cultures where you can pick up the best from both the cultures.
yeah. So I'm sure there are two sides of the coins in all the stories, or wherever we pick them from. But yeah, I think I agree with both of you.
What's the name of the book again?
It's Rebel Girls.
Rebel Girls.
Yeah.
Bedtime
stories. It's a pink colored cover, I think.
Because I think
Is it pink?
No.
Please let it be blue. Because again.
No, it's blue and gold.
Awesome.
Blue and gold.
In fact, there is another book which is launched by a lady, a friend of mine, and its title is called as Pink and Blue. So it very clearly demarcates that pink is not just meant for women, even men can wear pink. And
But it was like that because the color pink was worn by men initially.
Yeah.
In the 15th century or something, and then for marketing purposes. Yeah,
Correct.
just turn.
Yeah. I've read this part as
Like the
well.
heels.
Yes.
Men were wearing heels before
Yeah.
women.
Yeah. And I think man touched upon that aspect a little about toys and how we raise our children, because boys cannot cry, girls are sensitive, they are delicate, they'll be saved by their princes, or they should learn how to cope, or they play with different toys. I think you touched upon that already.
They only have to cover their wings.
Yes,
They also have all their lanes.
I have. Well, yeah.
Those have to do. No, it's not only about the toys, how we treat them is also, I think.
Exactly, how we raise them.
There was an experiment done where the boys were dressed as girls and girls were dressed as boys, and educators were brought in to interact, and they were exactly interacting the opposite way. So it's not only that the toys, but when you have a girl in the house or you have a girl where you would interact, you would be softer and gentler. With a boy you would be more aggressive. So you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rebecca. Yes. You're waiting for Rebecca. Yeah.
The next speaker.
Come. I'm still in my flight feeling probably. Over to you, Rebecca. Yes.
Okay, I have a presentation, so I'm going to try to break this. Thank you, Aditi, for making it so interactive.
Yeah.
All right, good afternoon. I am Rebecca McCarty, and I am part of the delegation here from New Mexico State University. We are located in New Mexico, obviously, in the United States. And I am super excited to be talking to you all today about the power of storytelling, rewriting our fairy tales and fables. Just to the other two speakers who've already spoken, I absolutely loved what you had to say about stereotypes and gender equality through our fairy tales and fables. And today I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach on this topic, but it does in the end come back around to the stereotypes and the way that we choose to tell stories across cultures. I absolutely love the topic of storytelling because I believe storytelling is one of the most powerful forces that we experience on a global standpoint. Storytelling has the ability to teach, it has the ability to unite, and the ability to inspire people. And that makes it one of the most important fundamental concepts that we have that connects us as human beings. So, like our other speakers already said, our fairy tales and fables differ by region. Growing up in the United States, I grew up with stories like Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Little Red Riding Hood, Jack and the Beanstalk. But we must be aware that these are not the only fairy tales and fables that we see on a global standpoint. While all of these stories differ depending on where you grew up and what your experience was, there are some commonalities between all of them. All fairy tales and fables typically involve the interaction between humans and mystical creatures or talking animals. They're usually passed down from generation to generation, allowing them to gain value as they go through multiple generations. They also adapt and reveal new meaning over time, allowing us to learn new things from each fairy tale and fable as we grow older. But there are some fundamental differences between the two, and it's quite simple. Fairy tales often lack a moral message, and oftentimes luck determines the outcome of the main character. In the meantime, a fable has a moral lesson, and the actions of the main character are what actually determines the outcome at the end. So, what was it about these stories, be it fairy tales or fables, that captured our hearts? Was it the talking animals that became the allies of man? Was it the strong force between good and evil? Or Prince Charming stepping in to sweep us off our feet at the end of it and make life better? I believe that these stories spoke to who we were as young girls, making us feel like this is what life should be like. We believed that every princess that we saw in the fairy tales was exactly what we would grow up to be. And at the end of it, there are three fundamental truths that I believe fairy tales use to speak to us as women. First, every female has a desire to play a role in a story. Second, all we want is to be recognized for exactly who we are. And third, we want to triumph over our situation. These three fundamental concepts are exactly what caused us to find this connection to fairy tales and fables. They're the thing that drew us in and made us dress up like princesses or fairies and dance around waiting to see who would recognize that we were just as elegant as the princesses in the story. Today we're going to look into these concepts a little bit further using the storyline of one of my favorite fairy tales. My favorite fairy tale growing up was always Beauty and the Beast. Now, we discussed earlier that these stories differ a little bit among cultures. This was a movie that was recently released, the live-action version of Beauty and the Beast, which to this day, even though I am 20 years old, is still my favorite movie. So we'll go over the storyline a little bit as I know it, and I do recognize that a lot of you may know a different version of the story. So in this story, a young woman named Belle lives with her father in a small town. She is known around her entire community for being smart and beautiful, but she is tragically misunderstood by the people around her. To make matters worse, this guy in the top middle is determined to marry her, despite her obvious lack of interest. In the meantime, a prince in a town not too far away is falling under a spell because of his selfishness. He is transformed into a beast, and all of the servants in his castle are made into common household items. The only hope of reversing the spell that has been put on the beast and his castle is for someone to fall in love with the beast before the last petal falls off of an enchanted rose. In the meantime, Belle's father eventually gets imprisoned by the beast, and the only way for him to be free is for her to take his place. Captivity for Belle eventually leads to friendship with the beast, and finally the two fall in love, breaking the spell and making everyone human again. When I look back on this story and growing up with it, I can identify exactly why it was that I was drawn to this story. I was drawn to the way that, one, Belle played a role in freeing herself, her father, and the beast. Two, she was recognized for being who she was, a smart and beautiful woman, capable of recognizing people far beyond reasons that just met the color of their skin or their physical appearance. And third, she was capable of triumphing over her situation by making the most of her captivity and winning the heart of the beast. I was captured by this story because of the way it related to the deepest desires of my heart. But the problem was when I took this story and laid it out as an outline for my life, believing that my story would be just as elegant and just as beautiful as the story in Beauty and the Beast. So obviously reality for me would soon prove to not look so much like reality for Belle. I grew up in the town on this top side. It is the biggest town New Mexico has to offer. So I was a city girl. I grew up knowing exactly what I wanted to do with my future. I had every detail planned out. I had an older sister, 2 little brothers, and the best parents a girl could ever ask for. And that gave me the power to know exactly where I was headed with life. I went to school, I played sports, and I was your normal, everyday student. My plan for my future was to go to college, become a doctor, and live the rest of my life as happy and as rich as I could possibly be. So I thought. When I was 12 years old, my parents informed us that we would be leaving the city and we would be moving to a town out in the middle of nowhere, which is the town on this bottom edge. If you look really close, you can see the water towers, but that's about all you can see of the town. It's a town so small, it's barely recognized for its existence, and it was going to ruin all of my genius plans. Where was I going to go to school? Who was I going to be friends with? How was college even going to be a reality for me? This point in my story was what I was starting to recognize as the major tragedy. And while in reality this is not that big of a tragedy to simply have to move from one town to another, in my mind it was ruining everything. When we step back and we look at other fairy tales, we can often identify the tragedy that happens in it. And as readers, when we reach this tragedy, we have a choice. We either set down the book and stop reading it, or we flip the page and see where the story takes us. This was my opportunity to either accept my fate and give up on all of my dreams, or to turn the page and discover who I really was. So, I turned the page. Instead of focusing so much on how my perfect plan was being destroyed, I decided to step back. I needed to learn how to play a role in my story. And once I could figure out that, I could figure out who I truly was. So once I learned the role that I had to play in my story, I took a step back and realized what it was about those big dreams that made me have those specific dreams. Anybody who plays a role in a movie or a character in a book has to know exactly what it is that makes that character function the way that they do before they can successfully portray that character to anybody else. They have to know the character's deepest passions, what ignites their emotions, and what makes them the person that they are. So this is where I took a step back. And I started to learn the ins and outs of who I was, in hopes that by knowing my own character, I could portray that same thing to others. So, in picking apart those dreams,
Launched at Women Economic Forum last year, and I have one of the co-authors sitting here, Bhavani, with me. Thank you, Bhavani, for joining in here. And most importantly, storytelling helped me connect with my own son, who's 6 years old, starting from the time when I was carrying him in my womb. So that's the power of stories. And with power comes responsibility. So, where does this responsibility and power come from when we talk about stories? You know, stories are incomplete without words. Stories are incomplete without expressions. Can you imagine a story ever without expressions? Are you up for a small exercise?
Yes.
Alright, great. That's the best part. Alright, I want you to turn your face to the neighbor, sitting next to you. And I'll give you 30 seconds. Those who don't have neighbors, they can. I'll join them. Alright. So I'll give you 30 seconds. Here we have clearly, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll give you 30 seconds. Yes, ladies out there already started. Wait, I know you've got immense appetite for stories here. Great. So I'll give you 30 seconds, and only one person between both of you is going to speak. And you have to give a 30-second pitch of convincing yourself, the other person, to invest in your business, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. Come up with your own organization. 30 seconds, begin now. And there we call a stop. Okay, stop it, stop it, stop it. Alright, I think you still have lots more to speak. Vinita, I know you have loads to speak. Vinita, can I have you here? Alright. So I'll give you another 30 seconds because I know that you really want to talk more, but this 30 seconds will be with a little more difference. So in this 30 seconds, you've got to do the same exercise, but with the ridiculously funny face that you can ever make. Now do your sales pitch. Yes, the same person. A ridiculous funny face that you can ever think of making. You have to do it now. That's beautiful. It was quite a sight for me to see from here. Trust me. So were there any takers? No, we all had all the fun. I could see so many giggles, the other room might be thinking what's happening in here. It's Women Economic Forum after all. Alright, great. So were there any takers? None? So we understand, that the power of expressions is very, very important. You can't think of going to a sales pitch and make those ridiculous funny faces, right? Alright, so that is just to explain you that. See, even with the digital invasion today, unfortunately, most of the communication today happens through WhatsApp, right?
That to still have a luxury of giving us emoticons. So that's the power of expressions. Once upon a time. These are 4 simple yet highly powerful words. Now what follows them makes a lot of difference in terms of the long-lasting impact it's going to make on the listener. So we have to be very, very responsible in terms of choosing our words, our expressions, and our own belief system, because that's where all this generates from, isn't it? Right? My co-speakers have already spoken a lot about, the fables, the gender stereotyping, the kind of messages which are being communicated through our bedtime stories. It's definitely time for us to rechange, focusing back on the expressions part. Why is it that, at times you will be going for a client meeting or a customer meeting with your endless umpteen PowerPoint bullet points in that, and it's like a death by PowerPoint presentation, such kind of presentation which you yourself would not be willing to even sit and go through, right? However, we are okay with spending money and going and watching a movie, which is as unrealistic as James Bond. And we'll be out of theatre, happy, elated, and some of the women will be like, wow, look at James Bond. And some of the men would want to talk like James Bond, walk like James Bond. Don't we do that? We get so inspired by looking at the stories, right? So why all this happens is because you need to have a conviction in what you speak. Things needs to be presented. The source with which our expressions and word comes is our own set of beliefs. The organizations where you all are working with, or even if it's your own startup, ask yourself, do you believe in the vision of your organization, which you are taking ahead? Even when you're telling story to your child, my speakers have so beautifully talked about Jack and the Beanstalk. What are we teaching? That it's okay to steal? What are we talking from the story, Cinderella? That, we've talked already about that, it's not that women are not meant to wait for a good-looking, handsome man to come and rescue her. Sleeping Beauty, again, she's under a spell for almost 100 years. It's not that her only KRAs which were being discussed in that was that she's good-looking and she's sleeping and she's waiting for a handsome man to come and rescue her from the spell, right? So it's time. So we as parents, when we are also doing the bedtime stories to our children, we definitely need to first have conviction into what we are speaking. Not many parents, because I deal with this profession where I happen to meet so many parents, and starting from having kids as small as 6 months old till 10 years of age. So often parents come and question that, these are not the stories what we need to talk about. What is it that we need to talk about? See, storytelling is such a beautiful expression, it helps ignite, it challenges, it motivates you. So you need not, be dependent on YouTube videos or storybooks, just to create your story. You can actually create your own story. It is so beautiful way to connect with your child. So since we are talking about power of storytelling, and it's a beautiful session on it, so this will be incomplete without me doing a story today. How about having a story? Right? Let's all create a story together. So, once upon a time, there was a hotel called Taj in Dwarka. They were beautiful looking women and men as well, and we were all sitting and creating a story together. Okay, now I want all of you to imagine that there is a packet of balloon bang in front of you. Imagine, don't look at me. Imagine there's a packet of balloon bang in front of you. I want you to tear the packet. Tear the packet, come on. Yeah, tear the packet, take out any one colored balloon from it. So it's a colorful, balloon in the packet. So can you tell me what's the color of the balloon? Red. Wow, wonderful. It's our imagination, right? Okay. It's not that you're thinking yellow because you're wearing yellow, right? All right, okay. Now keep the packet back and take that balloon in your hand. Show me balloons. Great. Can you try to stretch it and try to blow air in it? Let's blow. Keep observing the size of it, growing bigger and bigger. Watch it nicely. Do it. Where is the balloon gone? Come on, you can't be without the balloon. It's there. Did anybody's burst? Or should I come and burst it? So what's the shape it's taking? Is it oval? Is it... Okay, it's oval? Alright. Watch it nicely. Feel it nicely. Tie it. The air is going to go back. Go out. Tie it. Did you tie it? Alright. Can you hold it in your hand now?
Yes.
Now I want you all to stand up, please. The ones with the coffees, can please keep your cups away. It's a beautiful balloon which is in your hand. Wonderful. Can you try to bounce it?
Yes.
Bounce the balloon. Alright. Can you try to bounce it with your elbow? Do it with your elbow. Yeah, you can do it. We have been child once, right? Haven't we?
Oh, it's gone there.
It's gone. Look at it. It's up. Yes, yeah. Very nice. Lovely. Alright. Now can you try to bounce it with your shoulders? Yeah, it's gone there. Go, do it. Yes. Yes, wonderful. Where is it going? Can you see? I could see someone's shoulders. Aditi, Sanjini, where's your balloon? If you're not doing it, you have to pick up the balloon again from the packet. Come on, I'm not going to leave you like that without the balloon. Alright?
Mine is heart shape, so it goes on.
Alright, so you're spreading love everywhere. You're spreading love with your balloon. Alright, it's bouncing, come on. I should wish there was a music along with me. Alright, just push it away. All the balloons are doing there. It's flying up in the air. Just send your balloons. It's fine. Push it more. Can you see that? Give it back. See the balloons going? Say bye to your balloon. Bye. Thank you. Thank you for being such an interactive audience with me.
And creative
So,
as well.
absolutely. You've been spreading hearts away. So that's the power of stories, You don't need to be dependent on any particular fables or stories. You can create your own with your little ones. I could see this one, the most excited one perhaps, sitting in here. Right? Rainbow, wow. Can you give a round of applause? This is the purpose there. Right. So going back to again the power of storytelling, so choose your words very wisely, very responsibility, because you don't know when the other person is going to have a deeper impact on it. So I leave you with this thought. Thank you so much.